Welcome to Resist with Joy podcast, where we amplify the voices of everyday people and empower our listeners to engage, show up, and become the policy shapers of tomorrow. I'm Tina Marie.
I'm Martina. We have some thoughts today, a little bit different episode. We have someone else. Who's here?
I'm Savannah.
She is
Savannah.
the beauty and brains behind our operation.
That's right. Yeah. So what happened last weekend, we didn't record because we were all on the other island on Oahu in Honolulu, and the Democratic Party of Hawaiʻi convention took place. And we had told you that Tina Marie was running for chair. Yes, that's right. And today we want to share some thoughts about what happened, expectations, moving forward, and also in between. We want to share actually it was quite an emotional journey, I have to say. We both, I don't know how you, Savannah, but I'm on the older side. I was still in recovery mode for several days after this trip to Honolulu, just because there were a lot of people for me and everything new and trying to look behind the scenes. How did you guys? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, Savannah, you're brand new to this. So what was your expectations going in?
I don't know how many expectations I actually had since I didn't know what to expect whatsoever. But it was, I don't know, I feel like it was calmer than I expected. There was still a lot of stuff happening all the time, but the room itself was calmer than I expected, especially when it came time to vote for things.
Yeah, I felt like it was very uneventful in a way. I mean, there was some spirited discussions here and there, but overall it was very, very weird. It was kind of boring almost.
Like very down to business, get things done and get out.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should explain that to folks. I think I was surprised too, but on the other hand, I'm not surprised, because if you sit on a board of any organization and or you go to a council meeting or you go to any kind of official stuff, where there's a secretary taking notes, and then in this case parliamentarian, that was really important that we follow the rules. And then I was introduced to the Roberts rules, what means someone in 1876, I believe, was so frustrated. I think his name was Mr. Robert. So frustrated how meetings like this were conducted. They were just so chaotic. Everybody was shouting, that a rule book was created, and they're called the Roberts rule, where you have a little gavel and you start a meeting and then you gavel out just like a judge. And then when you have motions, they have to be second. And then there's all kinds of things.
Procedure
and how this goes. And I think that was the calmness that actually brought over the whole room, that certain things you go by an agenda is shared beforehand. And that was new to me, but yes, it was calm, but there was structure to it, which actually is a good thing. And I guess that's how parties run or meetings run, caucuses run. I mean, you have more experience on caucus work. You're in the Women's Caucus, Tina Marie.
Yeah, the Women's Caucus is actually more laid back and low key because we pretty much all get along and agree on everything anyways. So there really isn't a lot of disorder to the caucus itself. There's very few occasions where we'll actually have to go through like a motion or discussion or anything, but usually anytime someone brings up a motion, there's no discussion to be had because we all agree and we just all immediately pass everything by unanimous consent. So it's actually really great because the caucus can actually do a lot more without having to have a lot of opposition in terms of that. For me, going through and learning the Roberts Rules of Order, which I've been deeply, heavily involved in within our community for the past year and a half, what I've learned is that not only does each county have like their own platform and their own resolutions to have their legislators follow, but some of those resolutions get sent up to the state party. So as a whole, the state party gets to decide if they're going to adopt some platform changes and some resolutions. Now, the way it works when you get to the state party is it has to go through a committee, and the committee is made up by several different random people. So if you're part of the party and you were registered to go to the event, you can be part of that committee to review any submissions. So that has to go through the Roberts Rules of Orders by motioning, seconding, having a discussion, and then voting. And then once it passes, it goes to the state convention for full adoption. So they had a platform with several different additions to it. and a whole bunch of resolutions, which half of the resolutions that went to the state convention were actually adopted by our county convention. So yay us. Now, when it goes to the state party and it passes through committee, the people that are at the convention that have the ability to vote, they also have the ability to pull things out of the platform and pull things out of the resolutions. This means that whatever does not get pulled out gets passed automatically. Anything that gets pulled out has to be made, has to have signatures, has to have a form filled out. And then at the state convention, this is where people can make a motion to discuss it, second it, have a discussion, 3 in favor, 3 opposing, and then it goes to a vote, whether or not it gets passed to put into the state party's platform or resolutions. So those are the kinds of things that we were voting on, is anything that got pulled out from any submissions and additions that were made. So I found that some people there I thought were going to be in favor of certain things weren't. There was one resolution that has been tried to pass for several years, and it was for the military land use extension. And we were trying to stop that to get the military off of Hawaiian lands. So finally, we did end up getting that passed, but it took several years to do it. And Tina Holt was actually the author of that. So I want to give major props to her. But you would think that, you know, if we're going to honor the Hawaiian culture and we're going to honor the lands, and the military is desecrating our lands and taking it over, and, you know, colonization and all that, you would think that we would want to end that. And being in that room, it was very surprising to see people that were in opposition to removing the military from our lands.
Speaking of resolutions, I remember that on the county level, we had the resolution about ranked choice voting. Where did that land?
That got unanimously passed. Nobody pulled it out.
Well, that's a big deal, right?
It is a huge deal.
We should push primaries to be ranked choice voting, so we don't have to go through the motions again, through the work to have like a 3-way run, and someone has to drop out, so it's only a 2-person run, challenger run, or incumbent with 1 challenger, because we're trying to work really hard to replace 1 congressional district. 1 is being challenged by Jared Keahokalole, and he's the one who sponsored or co-sponsored SB 2471. He's a state senator, and that's the dark money getting out of politics. I hope he has a real shot to get this incumbent out. And we met him, right? I mean, there were several people at the convention that we really enjoyed doing speeches. Do you remember, Savannah? What was your favorite of the 3 that did bigger speeches?
My absolute favorite was Tim Walz. I was so excited.
He was the highlight of the entire event for me, because to meet a potential vice president was just, I wanted to cry. And I asked him if I can give him a hug. And I told him that we mourn every single day for being robbed of his brilliance.
Me too. I really enjoyed that too. And then Senator Schatz was there, and also Governor Green was there. I really enjoyed Walz too. Of all the people talking and speaking, or whoever wanted to run for any kind of caucus or commission or whatever, I really appreciate people that have clear language, what we live through right now. And Governor Walz, he has the best language to it. We have real problems. And I felt whenever I talk to people, nobody used the word fascism, people that were trying to make points at the microphone, everybody was sometimes di-la-di-da, everything is fine in Hawaii, and nothing is fine. So for me, it's a red line if a person in power doesn't use, or that is leadership at this point, doesn't use or bring clarity to their constituents or people in the room where they stand. I kind of felt Governor Walz was the best of all the speakers.
His speech was, I have the whole thing saved on my phone, and I keep meaning to go back and rewatch it because I was excited. I was paying more attention in the moment, but I want to actually go and be able to pull things out of it and be able to absorb it better. But this last week has been crazy and I haven't been able to. But between him and Schatz, those were the main 2 that I feel like actually had something to say. Not that Governor Green didn't have something to say, but I felt like the 2 of them had the biggest message. And we had Jill Takuda, who sent in her video message, as well as Senator Hirono, and those were also really great to hear. But getting to listen to Walz in person, I try to listen to pretty much everything that he has online and every speech that is publicized, but actually being able to be in the room listening to him,
it hits different.
It does. Yeah. There was just an air to the room that was exciting. So that was amazing to hear.
He's really nice in person too, if you ever get to meet him. He's really down to earth.
Yeah, you had a VIP meeting, right? There was a VIP event on Friday night, and he was there and you were there. I kind of missed that part, buying a ticket.
It was an extra charge, pay to play, but yeah, since I was running for chair, it was really important for me to be there because there's a lot of people in there that were going to be voters and whatnot, and he was there, Schatz was there, some other people were too. There was a huge crowd going to meet Governor Walz, and I kind of just swooped in off the side. I was like, hi, I'm running for chair. I kind of feel bad that I budged everybody. So I really apologize. I didn't actually realize there was a line when I went in there. So my apologies for not reading the room to anybody. That was very rude of me. But yeah, I didn't realize that there was a line until I was like in front of his face. I was like, oh, whoops. Okay, well, I'm here. I ran up to him. I was like, oh, hey, my name is Tina Marie. I'm running for party chair, blah, blah, blah. And we mourn for you every day. Can I have a hug? And then I just went up and gave him a hug. And I asked him the biggest question that I've been wanting to ask him forever. And that was, why didn't we get a recount? And his answer was actually shocking because he said that he wasn't part of those, he doesn't know why they didn't get a recount. He wasn't part of those discussions, paraphrasing from him. So, and listening to my husband, who also had interactions, he got the impression from talking with him that he was kind of left on the sidelines for a lot of the big decision-making process throughout the whole campaign. And he even said, Tim Walz actually said, I was just there and paraded around or something of that nature. He said he was just there and just going with the motions or something like that. So it was interesting, but you know, at least he didn't know why we didn't get a recount. So I guess, you know, if anybody ever gets a chance to ask Harris, why didn't we get a recount? That would be great. But he was very nice.
It might be the same answer, Tina. It might be the same answer.
It might be, but, you know, I think she might have had more control over the situation. Who knows? Yeah. But I was I had to take the opportunity to ask. Like, if you're in the moment, you have to take the opportunity. And I took it.
Yeah, you did. Actually, that's a perfect lead in to the first few minutes now was about, I guess, just impressions, positive. But I think we should spend some time on why we said at the beginning that we are in recovery mode, because, you know, it was a big hit. Just a big hit as in there was so much happening. You had to really work through it and recalibrate yourself. We're back on our island. We're not in Honolulu anymore. And just thinking about this a lot all week. And it's about Heather Cox Richardson saying, you know, it's like power is always sloshing around. And we got a demonstration where the power was last week. And maybe you can just tell your story, how it ended up. You didn't get chair.
No, I lost my election, guys. It's okay. I lost my election. But yes, this was quite an experience for me. And I have no regrets running, to be honest. Like it was, I learned a lot more going through the motions than I ever would just watching it happen from the sidelines. But yeah, running for chair, I had to put an entire campaign together really quick because I actually did not anticipate putting together very much because I thought I was going to be running against 3 other people. So I wasn't planning to do half the things that I ended up doing. But when I found out that there was only 2 of us running, I was like, I actually have a shot now and I actually have to take this more seriously. So
and you did take it very seriously. I have to say all the prep you did and all the outreach and trying to communicate with people, right? So you took it very seriously. I can only applaud you for that. So
yeah, continue. And that's kind of goes along with my motto. It's like, if you have the opportunity, seize it and do the best you can. And that's what I did. So I quickly had to put together graphics. I had to put together a postcard to print it out and hand it out over there. I had to put together my social media. I had to put together videos and endorsement videos and email outreach and all this stuff. And there's a lot that goes into that behind the scenes. And I put together a slogan, colors, branding, everything. And it was a lot of work to do in a very short amount of time. Again, I wasn't planning to do any of that if I knew there was 3 other people running. But here I was actually having to run a campaign, and it was great. So one of the things that I thought would be pretty smart, because I did not get the list of delegates until like a week beforehand. That gives you like their contact information. There was over 400 delegates. So trying to call every single one and reach them personally, that is an impossible task within a week's time. So I had to get creative. In my candidate statement, I put my email address. I put my Instagram handle on there so that gave people a way to contact me. My opponent did not. So at least I had an extra way for them to reach me. Then on my Instagram profile, I put together a survey and I asked 3 different questions. I said, what are Democrats doing well? What can Democrats do better? And what are your expectations of party chair? And I got a lot of responses for those, and it was very intriguing responses. And then another thing that I had to do was, because I got the email outreach, because I got the email addresses and I knew I couldn't call everybody, I decided to do an email marketing campaign to them. So within a week's time, I sent out 4 emails, which I didn't want to overdo it, but I also wanted to make sure I at least tried to reach them if I couldn't reach them by phone. So I did that. I got over 70% views and opens, which is great. And I basically just gave a lot more information about myself, about, some rumors that were going on around about me, which someone said that I was anti-union. I have no idea how that rumor got started. Not true, by the way. I support the right for people to unionize. So I was just trying to get as much information as I could out there while I was also going through the list trying to call people. I had an entire team behind me. I had 20 people as part of my campaign crew. You 2 lovely ladies were part of it. But those people were across several islands, and they had experience before running campaigns and told me what to do, who to call, who probably would be a waste of my time to call. So I was able to organize that at least. During my phone calls, though, it was pretty interesting. The top concern for a lot of people, how are you going to fundraise? How are you going to fundraise for the party? How are you going to keep the lights on? How are you going to pay for everything? Fundraise, fundraise, fundraise. That was shocking to me. And for me, it's I get it. The party requires money to run. We have staff there that needs to be paid. I get that. Also, the party is very disconnected from our voters.
Now, say that one more time. Repeat that one more time.
The party is very disconnected from our voters.
Yes.
And if you want to continue fundraising, Business 101 tells you have to rely on new business. You have to gain new business. And what I have noticed by being part of the party for the past couple of years is we're constantly talking among ourselves. We're not doing any outreach. We're not engaging with the voters. I'm engaging with the voters when we're out at protests, when I'm out in the community, but I don't see the party doing that. I know our last chair did go out to community events a lot. I don't know what he actually did to bring people in, and that's a question we can ask him. But for the party as a whole, for the people that do make up the party, they're not really engaging with the public. They're just engaging with each other. So if we're going to constantly be sending out emails to ask for donations, to, donate to the party, eventually we're all going to die out. How are we going to keep the lights on when we all die out? We have to be engaging with the voters. We have to be, listening to them. First of all, we need to listen to their concerns and actually do. Sorry, Savannah, you have to bleep that out.
All good.
It's a specialty.
So we actually have to do stuff, and we actually have to show up and give them a reason to vote for us. We have to make them excited to vote for us by doing good things. Look at Mamdani, look at AOC. And then, when we bring more people in, we have more money to pull from to keep the lights on. And that money can go to be used to help other campaigns run their campaign if they're running short on money to get Democrats elected, which is the whole point of having a party structure. So, but if
there's
we're not
a disconnect, if I may interject, there's this disconnect. Most people don't understand it's just a vehicle to get Democrats elected. That's the whole mission, right? Get Democrats into office. Is that right?
Yes.
And I think there's so much talk about the Democratic Party if you go national, not understanding that every state has their own state party, and then every county has its state party, and then the district. I mean, it's a lot to understand how this vehicle is supposed to drive. And we can all agree it's a really bad brand. I think about branding a lot. And that's what I wish I would have seen more too, that you could have played that maybe. I don't think you could have, you played all the cards right. How about this? Okay. But that's where I kind of look into this. You need to increase that people think that you're a better brand than what they think. You have to increase the interest in that brand. And that's why the work with Indivisible is so interesting for me, because I have an outlet there to do just that. People want to be engaged in politics, but not through such a low branded vehicle called the Democratic Party of Hawaii. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that now while we're thinking about why the Democratic Party of Hawaii is disconnected to their voter base. I think it's just this big gap. The question is who can close that? And I think you understand it. We're not sure if the current chair that was voted in will do that, and because there was all kinds of things happening around that election.
Well, yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. Essentially, the Democratic Party is the vehicle that connects the voters, that should connect the voters to the electeds. And that's the whole reason why we create a platform and resolutions, is so that those can become a base for our elected officials to follow when they're in legislation, when they're going through their legislative session. But yeah, that's kind of what it does. It's a grassroots type of thing, and anybody can join and become a member, whether it's a district member, county officer. If you want to join the SCC, a caucus, anything like that, you can become a member of the party to make those decisions, join the committees and whatnot. But yeah, it's supposed to be a structure to help get Democrats elected, to create a platform so that our legislators can follow. And it's not really doing a lot of that. I see a lot of talk, but I don't see a lot of action. And that's why I ran, is because I wanted to push the message that, hey, we're in urgent times. We have to be listening to our voters. If we're not listening to our voters, how can we expect them to vote for Democrats all the time? Right now, there's a huge trajectory of Democrats getting elected around the country, but that's because we have a huge opposition that is cruel and unnecessary. What happens when they're gone and they're no longer a threat? Are Democrats going to still become elected? And that's where my mind is in the future, after Trump. That's the message I wanted to push. So while running, I did all of the things that I wanted to do. I wanted to get my name out there. I wanted to network more across the islands, which I did. I wanted to push the message of urgency and getting more in touch with our voters. I wanted to get campaign experience, and I just wanted to go through the process and understand it. And I accomplished all those things. So I'm very happy that I ran and I did the campaign that I did. And I'm very happy I got to talk to people to understand them more.
I thought you did really well for being there for the first time in this whole atmosphere and this whole trying to understand the party system. You know, I do understand that the Republican Party is differently set up, and every state party, and like the Republican Party for the state of Hawaii, is also differently set up. But, you know, thinking of branding, I mean, if you have an R behind yourself, you know, I just only would, if I would run for office, I would put an I behind it for independent. You know, that's, I think, where most voters are today. And we just have to really watch who we put in office, and at this point, it has to be a Democrat, because it's just, that's the platforms that I want to live, that I agree with. The platform that everybody's equal before the law, rule of law. We all should be treated equally. And I mean, that's the whole list of it, right? But I cannot agree with anything that would be on the Republican side at this point. But
yeah, I've never agreed with Republicans, and that's just kind of been my thing. I didn't become a Democrat until 2016, because I was in a closed primary state where I can only vote for Democrats in the primaries if I was registered as a Democrat. But up until that point, I was independent because I didn't identify fully with either party, but I still voted for Democrats because they ended up becoming the better options every single time. But yeah, even inside the party structure, what we have noticed is that MAGA is not only infiltrating the Republican Party, but it seems like they're infiltrating the Democratic Party as well by running as Democrats, because we're in a blue state. And we've seen a lot of those different dynamics at the party level. What was your take on it?
Yeah, you said the infiltration, you know, it's our motivation, right? We want to infiltrate the Democratic Party to do good work, you know, and nothing about the Republican Party says to me it's good faith. They're totally lost that. I cannot agree with anything that's happening on a national level. And I don't even know what the party does here in the Republican Party here in Hawaii, but they're trying to run for office too. So when we talk about dynamics, what I just saw, but it was a huge contingency, leave that in the pod. A lot of people that voted for your opponent. And it was very obvious when you just entered the convention room, the tables were full in the morning already. And then all the other islands slowly filled up too. And there was a lot of talk between people, that a lot of folks came and were flown in or were paid hours to be there to vote for their opponent. So I had heard about this beforehand, that it is possible that people do this, and we just have to work hard on the other side to get people vote for you. But the longer the day went by, it was so clear, it felt almost a mountain you couldn't climb, you couldn't overcome to win this election, because so many things were set in stone beforehand. That was my impression, and that was the end result too. So I totally applaud you to just running for it. And then we have so many lessons to learn from that. And my biggest lesson here is we need to be strategic. It's like they had a strategy. We had folks telling us stories that people that voted for the opponent actually voted for the current president. I mean, that's what a disqualifying comment that is, to be in that room with people like that. Someone agrees with what the current administration is doing or the regime, and then talk about infiltration. That's infiltration from the right into the Democratic Party of Hawaii.
What are your thoughts, Savannah, about what you witnessed?
There were people, just when I was walking around trying to talk to people, that didn't even know that you were running. They thought that he was running unopposed. They had no idea that there was even somebody else to vote for. They were told where to go, who to vote for. They had no idea what was going on, which is, it's disheartening. Like, they were able to just show up, take everything, and walk away like it didn't matter.
Yeah, and my biggest issue with the opponent is actually, I don't know about his qualification. I think he lives in the same district as you. So there was never an argument against what do you do with a party chair that is not on the island of Oahu. That was nothing to be discussed there. He's like your neighbor, right?
But I didn't see him get asked that. Like, I saw you get asked that, but I didn't see anybody asking him that question on whether or not he could do it from somewhere else.
And the other thing was about time. How much time can you actually dedicate to this position? And that was actually my biggest thing, the urgency of the times we live in. You have to throw as much time into something like this as you can. And Tina Marie, you would have the time and you would dedicate the time to that.
Virtually unemployed right now, and he has a lot of time commitments. He's with other committees and other boards and other things like that.
And has a full-time job. Yeah.
I don't see that he can actually dedicate the time that is needed to actually build up this party to meet the moment that we're in.
Then through the week, I thought about this. It's just the chairperson, right? I mean, it's a bobblehead, right? More or less. Because I do understand now that the governing entity of the Democratic Party of Hawaii is the SCC, and I always need the translation. It's a state
Central Committee.
What's middle the C? State?
It's State Central Committee.
Central. Okay, I'm gonna remember that now. We're gonna leave that in the pod so I can always watch it again, how I stutter around. But the governing part of this entity is the SCC, the State Central Committee. And I think there's at least 80 people on it, right? Delegates that can get these positions. It's highly complicated how you get into it, but it's possible. And that's where the strategy has to start. How do we get the governing party to a place that the chair represents it actually? And I don't believe it represents what he's running for. I don't actually know his positions, more or less. He just has this mantle of, I'm a Democrat. I have no idea what that actually means,
Which leads me into my whole observation about the strategy behind what happened and how we can move forward and do better. Because not only was I campaigning and sending out emails and making phone calls as best as I could, he didn't do any of that. He sent out one email the day before, people were voting. And that was it. Like, we didn't hear from him to do anything else. So while I was campaigning and doing all of that, and you walk into a room and you see everybody wearing the shirts to represent his side, there was over 150 people that came to vote for him, like, automatically. And what I heard, personal experience from what I heard, is while making phone calls, there were several people that said, I was recruited to vote for the other guy. I was recruited to vote for our guy. While I was at the convention and I was walking around the halls and whatnot, I think I came out of the elevator at one point and I was turning a corner. While I was turning a corner, there was a big group wearing the shirts to represent him. And I overheard them say, I thought this was the Republican convention. And I turned around to see who said that because I wanted to get their name, but it was just a big group of people. I couldn't tell who said it. From other people that have come up to me that had interactions with them, my husband, for instance, when we were at the party the night before, the VIP party, what you call it, they kind of stood in the back of the room all together like it was the mafia. And they were very intimidating looking. And a lot of people said this, and it was just the energy about them. It was weird. It felt off. My husband actually went up to them, the brave soul that he was, and he handed them my little postcard. And he's like, could I interest you to vote for my wife? Just to strike up a conversation with them. And at one point he was like, yeah, we're all on the same side here. We're all friends. When he said that we are all friends, they got very triggered And my husband later recalled, he said that he was surprised that they didn't take a punch at him, that they didn't try to swing a punch at him. Like, that's how heated that moment got. A couple other guys noticed the interactions and kind of separated them and kind of pulled them aside. They were mad because people that were supporting me had grievances with my opponent and were airing those grievances online and making the accusations that they did based on, their dislike of what the actions he took. And I'll go into that in a minute. But at the end, my husband was talking with a couple of them, like settling the debate and like just relieving some tensions and whatnot. And after that interaction, they kind of lessened their hatred towards me, at least the few people that he talked to. And a couple of them actually came up and talked to me afterward, which was great. And I had good interactions with them. So some of the grievances that were had towards my opponent was that the Women's Caucus and the Stonewall Caucus put together a pledge, which it has a whole bunch of statements to recognize that women are important, that the LGBTQ community is important. There was one line in there that referenced trans rights, inclusivity in activities and whatnot. And my opponent took issue with that. And he was starting to use MAGA talking points to anybody that talked to him about this and was trying to convince him how important it was for a party chair to sign this pledge. And some of the things that he was saying in those conversations that I'm hearing secondhand, by the way, was that he was using the phrase men and women's sports and that he didn't want his daughters to have opportunities taken away from them because boys are playing sports with them. Again, this topic has been debunked over and over by a lot of people that are very smart, but some people still hang on to this as a talking point. And it's really a MAGA talking point, which is why I say MAGA is infiltrating the Democratic Party, because they're infiltrating with these talking points. So naturally, people in the trans community and whatnot has a grievance about this, and they aired those grievances online, trying to hold him accountable. I didn't direct them to do this. I had no part in doing this. These are separate people with their own First Amendment rights to say what they want, and I can't control what they say. And so some of his supporters viewed that as negativity and saw it as a negative aspect towards me, even though during my campaign, I never used any attacks towards him, even though I could. He did used to be our District 8 chair, and he abdicated his role because he never showed up. He never did anything. For the last couple of years in our party, he hasn't been to any meetings. I haven't seen him at any protests. I haven't seen him engaging at all for anything. He hasn't been a regular donate every month member to the party like I have. So there was a list in the brochure of the convention of all the people that donate every month. I did not see his name listed there. Essentially, he hasn't done anything for the party, and I have. And I don't see him doing anything in the community, and I have. So on paper, I was absolutely the better candidate. Yeah. I was doing the work. I was campaigning. I was in touch with my community. And I also wanted to stand up and take a pledge to protect LGBTQ and women's rights. And he didn't. So on paper, this was my Kamala moment. You do everything right and you still lose. And the reason I lost is because not of anything I did, but because he had more people to come vote for him. Right out the gate, he had at least 150 people there just to vote for him out of the 400 people that were registered to be voters. And I did the math on this. That meant that I would have had to take 80% of the remaining vote in order to stand a chance. And if anybody knows anything about statistics, that is statistically impossible in any election to get 80% of the remaining vote. I do take comfort in knowing that of the remaining vote, I did take about half. I don't remember if it was over more than half or less than half, but I did reach very close to 50%, if not more. So I do take comfort in knowing that. I also take comfort in knowing that everyone that I've talked to that was not already, recruited to vote for him, they did soften their position towards me, and they did actually, say that they were going to vote for me. So I feel that I was more in touch than they were. But yeah, there was a lot of things that were being said to me about their interactions with him, and not with him directly, but with people that he came there to vote for him. And again, this is hearsay. These are people's opinions that they told me. And unfortunately, we did not record any of these interactions, so I have no proof, just putting that out there. But some of the things that were told to me by several people was that some of his people were not only recruited, but they admitted to being paid to be there. And some of them were MAGA, and some of them didn't even know that they were at the right convention because they thought it was a Republican convention. And I overheard that too. So it was very strange to hear that kind of, dynamics play out. And it's very disheartening. But what that tells me is that if they can come in and put their person in charge,
Infiltrate.
we can do the same.
That's right.
We just have to get organized. And I am
Strategy.
building a group, and I'm
Yeah.
using the momentum from my campaign to build a group to do just that in 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you all the way on that. I'm also in that group, and I have a lot of thoughts, and we will meet sometime soon to, dump our brains and where we go. I just think of everything that we need to do moving forward. And I think we just have to be very disciplined, and we have to really agree on certain things and not fight each other, because that's what they're good at. They just run forward and just bring in the MAGA people and literally shoe in this guy with all the votes. And we'll see where it goes, but we are all so motivated to do better. And I agree. Let's see where we are in 2 years, where the world is in 2 years. And there's a lot of interested, engaged citizens that just don't know that this particular vehicle, the Democratic Party of Hawaii, struggles in itself as well. And I think we should lay that out as much as we can and ask for more people to be engaged and turn the ship around.
Savannah, what hope do you have, and what strategies do you have for the future based on your experience?
I'm excited at the fact that we're not done. Just because you didn't win doesn't mean you're done. You've got your shoe in the door, and so many people behind you. They haven't heard the last of you. We're not done. If I learned anything, I made the tiniest little stink just getting things set up and trying to get myself there. When I went to go vote for you, somebody saw the name on my badge and went, "Oh, you." Now even our names are known. We're not done. They haven't heard the last of us. They're going to have to deal with us. And we're pushing to get what we want, what people want. And it's very exciting to see that just that part of it. They have a lot to deal with. They're not ready for it. It'll be good.
Yeah.
That is the most hopeful message we can ever take away from this entire thing, what she said right there.
Yeah. And this is the young voice, right? The young voice sees already how we were at the center of power within the Democratic Party. That's what the convention is. You meet people, you get to know some people, you see where motivations lay. There's a lot of things we can turn around and go into the right direction, in the better direction. There's so many things we don't understand in the world today. We're just like every day getting knocked over by bad news. But I do want to mention one from this week. Did you guys all see Ivanka Trump?
Oh, that was awesome. To those that don't know, she was on a podcast interview talking about how she was buying this island or whatever, and she boated there and she hiked and she did all these fancy things.
Barefoot.
She just got so moved by the land that she just wants to build there and just retire and blah, blah, blah. And the owner, the country of where this island is
Albania.
Albania, thank you. They are in the streets protesting her, and it is so beautiful and so heartening to see. I love it.
We are the majority. People with common sense and want everybody to have a chance and opportunity in life. We are the majority, and we're getting organized. We strategize. And that's exciting to me because I just did a lot of work for Indivisible to strategize and bringing that particular organization to another dimension, really level up. And we can talk about it on another podcast. The work we're doing there and how we communicate to people. That's what the podcast is about, because we want resist with joy.
And we want to show you how to go from showing up to shaping policy.
All right. Should we wrap it up now? We wish everybody a beautiful week. We'll be back in 7 days. We record on Sundays and then we drop on Wednesdays. Savannah, thank you for the editing. And you're also in the process.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
That too. We are having more interviews now. We have more connections made for folks that we want to feature and in-depth what the activism is all about. I'm really excited. And these interviews will drop very soon as well. So thank you, everybody. I'm going to try my hands.
Subscribe, hit all the buttons.
Yeah, that too. I'm going to practice it
the old way
this afternoon. I usually go this, right? So
for this.
I can do that. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Until next time.
Bye.